Your memory is lying to you. Every painful moment you replay before sleep, every embarrassing conversation you loop through while staring at the ceiling, you think you're just remembering. You're actually rebuilding. And by the end of this, you'll understand why rewriting those memories is the single most practical spiritual discipline Neville Goddard ever taught. Think about last night, what ran through your mind in those final minutes before you drifted off. For most people, it's a highlight reel of everything that went wrong. The argument they lost, the opportunity they fumbled, the look on someone's face that confirmed their worst fear about themselves. You fall asleep marinating in that footage, and then you wonder why tomorrow feels like a continuation of yesterday. Neville called this the revision technique, and he meant it literally. You take a scene from your day, or from 20 years ago, and you mentally rewrite it. You change the dialogue, you alter the outcome, you feel the revised version as though it actually happened. Then you fall asleep in that feeling. Sounds too simple, maybe even delusional. Why would changing a memory in your imagination alter anything in the physical world? Because the event itself was never the problem. Your solidified interpretation of it became the seed for every decision, reaction, and assumption that followed. That awkward job interview from 3 years ago, the one where you stumbled over your words and watched the interviewer's interest drain from their face. You've replayed it dozens of times. Each replay hardened it into proof. Proof that you crack under pressure. Proof that authority figures see through you. And that proof now sits in your chest every time you walk into a room where something is at stake. The original event lasted maybe 40 minutes. The story you built from it has been running for 3 years. Revision targets the story. You close your eyes and you re-enter that interview room. But this time, you're articulate. The interviewer leans forward. You feel the warmth of genuine connection, the quiet confidence of someone who belongs in that chair. You don't just visualize this, you feel your shoulders drop, your breathing slow, the satisfaction settle in your stomach like a warm drink. Neville was specific about the timing. The minutes before sleep are when your conscious mind loosens its grip. That inner critic, the one who'd normally interrupt with, "That's ridiculous, that's not what happened," it's drowsy. Your subconscious mind, which Neville identified with scripture's the deep, becomes receptive in a way it resists during waking hours. You're planting a seed in fertile ground while the guard dog sleeps. But what exactly are you planting? This is where most people misunderstand revision. They think the goal is to feel better about the past, a kind of mental painkiller. Soothing, maybe, but ultimately cosmetic. Neville taught something far more radical. He taught that consciousness is the operant power, that your inner world generates your outer world, continuously. A memory held with emotional charge becomes a template. Your subconscious mind uses it as a blueprint, filtering your perception, bending your behavior, selecting which possibilities you even notice. When you revise that memory, you're swapping the blueprint, and the architecture of your life begins reshaping itself around the new design. Consider how this plays out in relationships. Say you carry a memory of betrayal, someone you trusted deeply turned on you. You've processed it, talked about it, maybe even forgiven them on an intellectual level. But the feeling is still lodged in your body. A tightness when someone gets close, a reflexive suspicion when things are going well. You're reading the present through the lens of that wound, and every new person in your life inherits a portion of the distrust that belongs to someone who may no longer even be in it. Now revise, enter the scene again, but this time the betrayal dissolves. The person shows up with honesty. The conversation ends with understanding. You feel the relief of being met with integrity. You let that warmth saturate you as you fall asleep. What shifts? Your body releases a pattern it's been clenching around. Your perception changes its filter. The next morning, you interact with people from a slightly different place. Not from naivety, from a subconscious foundation that expects trustworthiness instead of scanning for threats. And people respond to that foundation. They always do, because your assumptions set the emotional tone of every interaction before a single word is spoken. A skeptic within the spiritual framework might push back here. If consciousness creates reality, doesn't revision amount to self-deception? Aren't you just pretending something didn't happen? Neville addressed this directly. He said the revision isn't a denial of the event. The event happened in the world of shadows, the external reflection. Revision operates at the level of cause, which is imagination. You're correcting the cause. The shadow has no choice but to follow. A mirror doesn't argue with the face standing in front of it. You've simply been staring at the old reflection and mistaking it for something solid. And there's a layer beneath even this. Neville taught that every night you die a little death. Sleep is a miniature crossing. The state you carry into it is the prayer that shapes what you wake into. Most people enter sleep accidentally. Whatever emotion grabbed them last becomes their nightly offering. Revision is the discipline of choosing that offering deliberately. The practice itself is deceptively simple but demands genuine inner effort. You pick one scene, just one, the most charged moment from your day or an old wound that still pulses when you touch it. You replay it in first person, you see through your own eyes, feel with your own hands. Then you edit, you change what was said, you change the outcome, you make it lovely. Neville's word, not mine. Lovely. And you loop that revised scene until it feels natural, until the emotional charge of the original version has been replaced by the feeling of the new one. The challenge, your mind will fight you. The original version will reassert itself. That's a lie, it'll whisper. You know what really happened. This resistance is the work. Every time you gently bring your attention back to the revised scene, you're exercising a muscle most people have never used. You're choosing your inner world instead of letting it be dictated by circumstance. Neville shared a story about a woman who had been fired from her job under humiliating conditions. Her employer had berated her in front of colleagues. She was consumed by the memory, replaying it, rehearsing what she should have said, feeling the shame burn fresh each time. He instructed her to revise the scene nightly. In her revision, the employer thanked her, praised her work, and wished her well. She fell asleep in that gratitude, night after night. Within weeks, the same employer contacted her, offered her position back, apologized. The outer world rearranged itself to match the inner revision. You can dismiss that as coincidence, or you can test it yourself. That's what Neville always returned to: experimentation. He called his teachings the law and the promise, and he insisted the law could be tested by anyone willing to apply it consistently. Revision is one of the most testable practices he offered because the feedback loop is personal and immediate. You feel the shift in your body within days. The external rearrangement follows at its own pace, but the internal change, that's yours almost instantly. Start tonight, lie in bed, and before sleep takes you, choose one scene that carries weight, something unresolved, something that still stings when your mind brushes against it. Now rewrite it. Make the conversation kind. Make the outcome what you would have wanted. Feel the warmth of that alternate version spreading through your chest, your hands, the back of your neck. Let it become more real than the memory it replaces. And when the old version tries to reassert itself, and it will, return to your revision with patience. Patience, because you're reconditioning years of habitual response in a few minutes of focused imagination. Do this for 7 nights with the same scene. Watch what happens to your emotional charge around it. Watch how your behavior shifts in the areas of life connected to that memory. Watch how the people around you begin responding differently, without knowing why, without you saying a word about what you've been doing in the quiet of your own mind. The past you remember isn't a fixed record. It's a living script, rewritten every time you recall it. You've been editing unconsciously for years, usually making the story darker, sharper, more confirming of your fears. Revision is the moment you pick up the pen on purpose. The scene you revise tonight becomes the seed of the reality you walk into tomorrow. Your subconscious doesn't distinguish between a vividly felt memory and a vividly felt revision. It responds to both with equal creative power. So the question worth sitting with tonight is this: which version of yesterday do you want to carry into tomorrow? Because you're planting one of them right now, whether you choose it or not. The only difference revision makes is that you finally get to choose which garden grows.